Welcome to garden, wishing you relaxing and joyful moments here. I am a maid who is not content with my station. I want to climb into Lord Chu's bed. Not for revenge and not because I hate anyone. It is only because I cannot accept spending my entire life as a servant serving tea and pouring water, living by reading other people's expressions. The bed right before my eyes is precisely the ladder that will change my fate. I know this idea is filthy and cannot be made public, but that ladder lies there. If I do not climb it, I cannot swallow this lump of resentment in my throat. End of the synopsis. Please listen to the story. Madame Chu was quarreling with Lord Chu again. Because of the woman in the separate villa, for the entire past month Madame Chu had not stopped causing chaos. At first I still heard Lord Chu suppressing his voice to explain while Madame Chu cried and answered. Later only Madame Chu's sobbing questions echoed back. Lord Chu was probably tired and no longer bothered to reply to her. In the room only Madame Chu's crying was carried far away by the night wind. The maids on night duty outside the corridor had all been driven away by Wang Mama early on. Only I remained. In fact, everyone from the stewards to the servants in the mansion knows about Lord Chu keeping an outer chamber. They simply pretend they know nothing. The ones who suffer most are close servants like us. We have to walk on tiptoes, afraid of touching bad luck. To be honest, Madame Chu is a good person with a soft heart. She is never harsh with those below her. It is a pity that this very goodness has made her live a muddled and miserable life. In her heart it seems only the two words, Lord, remain. All day she thinks about affection, about love, about the tiny bit of favor that can no longer be kept. Managing the mansion's social affairs, the account books and expenses, directing the servants. She is too lazy to care, or perhaps those eyes swollen red from tears can no longer see anything clearly. All her mind and all her cleverness are poured into dealing with the woman in the separate villa and tormenting herself. Therefore this large mansion looks splendid on the outside. But inside it has lost its main pillar and gradually gives birth to countless injustices that cannot be seen with the naked eye. At first Lord Chu still coaxed her patiently. Now only weariness and boredom remain. The number of times he returns to the main courtyard is visibly fewer. Even when he does return, most of the time he stays alone in the study. Inside, the sound of blue porcelain shattering rises, and Madame Chu's crying grows several degrees louder. The door is yanked open violently. Lord Chu, fuming with absolute rage, stepped out. Lord, it is late at night. Do you need me to prepare some hot water or hangover soup? I bow respectfully, my voice soft as I inquire. Lord Chu's footsteps halt. He turns his head halfway, his face still filled with anger. His gaze stops on my neck, revealing a faint purple lotus flower hidden beneath the skin, just below the slightly open collar. 7 years ago, when the horse panicked, I rushed forward to shield him and was kicked by a rock, leaving a deep gash. Later my mother secretly found a skilled craftsman and, following the scar, painted it into this lotus flower. Usually I always dress modestly. Not many people in the mansion know about this. Even fewer have seen this flower. I look up and catch his gaze lingering there. The anger in his eyes has turned into bewildered fixation. I recognize that look very clearly. Before Madame Chu was welcomed into the mansion, Lord Chu once looked at me with exactly the same eyes. Only at that time I was the most favored maid beside old Madame Chu. I could read and write, understood accounts, and was proficient in medicine. Old Madame Chu often said straight to Lord Chu when he came to pay respects, "This girl An Yun has meticulous and steady thoughts." Leaving her to oversee the inner courtyard, I am very reassured. Even the old woman sweeping the courtyard in the mansion understands clearly that I was secretly regarded by old Madame Chu as half a mistress. The little maids began to half-jokingly call me Miss Yin, and even Lord Chu's gaze toward me gradually changed. But all of that, since old Madame Chu passed away and the management rights fell into Madame Chu's hands, everything was cut off completely. Madame Chu did not make a big show of punishing me. She never even said a harsh word. She only looked at Lord Chu with tearful eyes. I know my mother's intention, but in my heart it truly feels uncomfortable. Letting Lian serve in my room, I feel more at ease. At that time Lord Chu was deeply in love with Madame Chu. Without thinking, he nodded at once. So I went from someone about to be promoted to concubine back to the status of a maid. My salary remained the highest and the work still retained its prestige. Madame Chu treated me gently and sometimes even held my hand to say a few intimate words. The matter of my parents I only overheard from the little maids one noon. The steward couple has been promoted. Madame Chu is very generous, sending them to the Western Mountain Villa as head stewards to enjoy their retirement. In the eyes of those maids there was indescribable envy. My hand, which was steaming Madame Chu's clothes, halted for a moment. The Western Mountain Villa is desolate. Year-round no outsiders are seen except the old gatekeeper. My father was the close steward beside old Madame Chu. My mother was the trusted mama with a face in the inner courtyard. The two of them were the right and left hands of old Madame Chu, living with dignity all their lives. Now they have been reassigned to watch over a few empty rooms and an abandoned vegetable garden. The day they left the mansion, I could not send them off. Madame Chu at that time had a headache and could not leave her side. She only vaguely heard the sound of carriage wheels passing through the side gate. It rumbled for a while, then fell silent. Later, my mother sent a small packet of salted plums she made herself, the snack I liked since childhood. The person who delivered it only left one message. Your mother said to live well. That night I massaged Madame Chu's feet. Madame Chu closed her eyes and suddenly sighed softly. Parents, if you are no longer by my side, you must be very lonely too. In the future, come here to talk to me more often. I kept my hand strength even. Serving Madame Chu is the duty of a slave. Madame Chu seemed very satisfied with that answer. From then on, she never said any more probing words. I replaced the new calming tea and brought it in for Wang Mama. The crying in the room had lessened. She said in a choked voice, "Go tell Lord Chu that my head hurts like it is being split by an axe." The Liu family's longevity banquet is tomorrow. Let him decide for himself. No matter whether I worry or not, no one cares anyway. Wang Mama sighed and stepped out, shaking her head lightly at me, then headed toward the study. That is her usual state. Once she sinks into sorrow and self-pity. Not to mention trivial matters in the mansion, even important things like social etiquette she lets go and ignores. She wants to use that to let Lord Chu know how deeply she has been hurt. And the remaining troublesome matters naturally fall on his head. After about one incense stick of time, Fuan from the study came. He did not look for Wang Mama but came straight to me. Lian Ginyang, Lord Chu invites you to review the list of longevity gifts for the Liu family. He must have remembered. When old Madame Chu was alive, such matters were usually reviewed by me first. Later, after I was transferred to serve in Madame Chu's room, that skill was only used to record jewelry or read a few spring and autumn lament novels to her. I put down the packet of incense in my hand and softly answered yes. When I pushed open the study door, he was standing with his back to the window, hands clasped behind his back. Hearing the sound, he turned around. The anger from earlier in the main room had completely disappeared. Take a look at these items. The old lady of the Liu family is a devout Buddhist, yet the servants presented all things that are inappropriate for the occasion. I stepped closer. Under the candlelight, I carefully looked through the red paper on the table. Indeed, bloodbird's nest, deer antler glue, all precious items but complete taboos. I thought for a moment, then softly said, "Lord, this slave recalls that in the warehouse there is a Guanyin statue made of Yangji jade. Years ago, old Madame Chu invited it from Putuo, pure and solemn. There is also a piece of cloud brocade in elegant colors used for the inner palace. The fabric is very good and can be made into a layperson's robe. I do not dislike those items, only skillfully adding 2 more would be even more pleasing to the heart." He looked at me for a while. "You remember very clearly," I answered respectfully. When serving beside old Madame Chu important matters like this slave dared not forget. He said nothing more, only lightly pushed the pen toward me. "Then do as you said. Copy a neat version." "Yes." I went to the desk, rolled up my sleeves, ground ink, and spread new paper. The new list was completed in no time. The items in order were clearly noted and easy to read. I blew the ink dry and presented it with both hands. He took it, glanced through, and his expression softened a little. Not bad. He put the list aside, leaned back, and suddenly asked, "Has Madame Chu gone to sleep?" "She has taken the calming tea and is resting," I answered. He nodded lightly, warily waved his hand. "All right, you may leave." I bowed in salute and gently closed the door. From the corner of my eye, I saw him sitting leaning against the chair, one hand rubbing his forehead, his posture wary to the extreme. The Liu family's longevity banquet passed smoothly, but the atmosphere in the mansion remained heavy as before. He still has not driven the woman in the separate villa away. He returns later each day. Madame Xu's mood also becomes more erratic day by day, sometimes sitting by the window shedding tears, sometimes smashing the newly delivered narcissus pot. That afternoon the sky suddenly poured rain. He returned from outside with clothes dotted with mud. His face gloomy, he went straight into the study. In the main room, she sat before a table full of delicious dishes but did not touch her chopsticks. Her eye rims were red again. She waved her hand. "Signal everyone to withdraw. I cannot eat. Take it all away." I directed the little maids to clear the bowls and plates and stayed to pour her a cup of hot tea. Outside the window, the rain pattered. Suddenly, she grabbed my wrist. "Lion, tell me, has he completely grown tired of me?" I answered gently, "Madam is overthinking. Lord Chu is only busy with matters outside." She released my wrist and gave a soft, cold laugh, her voice carrying wariness. "What matter could be so busy that he has no time to look at me even once? It is simply that he does not want to see me anymore. It is all because of that cheap woman that my husband and I have turned against each other." Words like these I have heard countless times. I stood silently waiting for a wave of emotion to pass. The rain grew heavier. Outside the courtyard came the sound of hurried footsteps. It is Fu-an, Lord Chu's personal page. What is the matter? Mama stepped out to ask. Fu-an leaned close and lowered his voice. But the rain was too loud. I still caught several words. Lord Chu was burned by hot wax. Mama's expression changed at once. She hurried inside to report. Madame started up from the couch in alarm. Burned. How did he get burned? Is it serious? They said someone in the Yemen was careless. While lighting the lamp, hot wax dripped onto the back of Lord Chu's hand. She panicked. Quick, bring the best ointment. I must go see him. Wang Mama hurriedly stopped her. Madam, it is pouring rain outside. Your body has only just recovered a little. Be careful not to catch a cold again. Let Lian take the medicine. Madame Chu's gaze swept over me and she frowned. No, Lord Chu is injured. How can I not go? She quickly put on a thick cloak. Lion, hurry and prepare the medicine. The whole group hurriedly set out into the rain. She wore a thick cloak, but half her body was still soaked by the rain. She paid no attention at all, only urging her steps forward faster and faster. The glass lantern swayed in the wind and rain, clearly illuminating her excited face. Before the study, she pushed the door open and rushed in. He was sitting behind the desk. On the back of his left hand, several blisters had already risen. The moment she saw them, her eye rims turned red. She rushed to him. Lord, how could you be so careless? Does it hurt? Let me see. He was touched on the wound and his brows tightened, but seeing her worried look, he finally endured it. It is fine. It is only a small injury. How can this be called small? Blisters have already appeared. Look at this. She snatched the medicine box from my hand, took a little on her fingertip. Her movements somewhat flustered. Look at you. No one beside you serves properly. Relying on those clumsy little pages, what can they do? He let her apply the medicine without a word, his lips pressed so tight they turned pale. She finished applying the medicine but still refused to let go of his hand. Her voice grew more and more resentful. When you are injured, is it not only I who become anxious and immediately run through the rain to come? Does that woman over there have any golden wound medicine as good as this? Or does she only know how to cling to you, demanding this and that? The jealousy and mockery were too obvious. At first he still endured. By now his face had completely sunk. He jerked his hand back, patience gone. Enough. I am still alive. I do not need you crying as if attending a funeral, and I certainly do not need you here comparing who is better and who is worse. Madame Xu's face turned deathly pale. Tears filled her eyes and fell faster than the rain outside the door. She looked at him trembling, unable to speak for a long time. Finally she stamped her foot, turned and dashed into the curtain of rain, even forgetting to take her cloak. Wang Mama cried out in panic and hurriedly chased after her. In the room only he and I remained. He looked at the medicine smeared messily on the back of his hand and warily closed his eyes. I stepped forward, took a clean handkerchief from my sleeve, dampened it with warm water, wrung it dry, and gently placed it on his uninjured wrist. His eyelids twitched slightly. He opened them a slit, glanced at me, said nothing, and did not withdraw his hand, taking it as consent. I lowered my head and gently wiped away the excess medicine. My movements extremely light, afraid of hurting him, even more afraid of breaking the blisters. After cleaning, the fresh burns were revealed. I took a little fresh ointment, spread it evenly with my fingertip, and slowly applied it. Because I was leaning forward, my collar opened slightly and half of the purple lotus on the back of my neck was exposed. The petals swayed gently with the movement of my hand under the candlelight. When the medicine was applied evenly, I took a thin cloth, bandaged it loosely once, then put away the handkerchief and medicine box. I stepped back one pace, bowed slightly, and from beginning to end said not a single word. I pushed the door open and stepped out. The damp, cold air outside rushed in. The gaze behind me followed until the door closed behind my back. After Madame Chu rested, it was already the third watch. All night she cried, then laughed. She crumpled a talented scholar and beautiful lady novel and then smoothed it out again. When she read the part where the young master bankrupted himself for the young lady and never took another concubine in his life, she suddenly laughed in a daze. Before the laugh ended, tears were already streaming down. Leon, look. Years ago my husband also said such words to me. Wang Mama sat beside her, offering a handkerchief, and gently advised, Madam, Lord Chu still has someone in his heart. You should also. Before the words were finished, she was cut off. What do any of you understand? You have never truly loved anyone. How could you know the torment inside? He once said he would have only me for his whole life. He once said it. She seemed to sink into her own delusion, repeating over and over the old oaths that had long faded. Wang Mama and I exchanged a glance, both helpless. To be honest, I felt Madame Chu's mind was not very clear. She lived inside a cage woven from love poems and romantic words. The power and silver clearly before her eyes inside the deep mansion. She saw none of it. She regarded him as heaven as earth, as the source of all her joy and sorrow. She never thought that heaven and earth were not made for love, but to be used. Why must she insist on seeing a man as her husband or as a deceiver? Could he not simply be Lord Chu, the person you must serve well in this mansion? Obey him, make him happy. Then the power and trust that slip from his fingers are real benefits. Are they not far more valuable than tears and oaths that cannot be grasped? Madame Chu was still sobbing. Her crying gradually grew softer. She must have been tired. I removed her hand, took away the book soaked and wrinkled by her tears, and replaced it with an incense burner of calming fragrance. The bed curtains were lowered, hiding that haggard little face. Wang Mama and I withdrew to the side room to rest. Wang Mama was old and could not endure it. She leaned against the brazier and dozed. I stood by the window looking at the thick darkness outside, my mind clearer than after drinking strong tea. Love. Such a luxurious thing and so foolish. What I have wanted from the beginning has never been love. For several consecutive days Lord Chu did not return to the mansion. Madame Chu was like a flower deprived of water, wilting and lying on the bed, crying and complaining at times, ignoring food and drink. Matters in the mansion were naturally pushed aside by her even more. On the day the monthly wages were to be distributed, trouble indeed happened again. Several aunties and maids with courage gathered outside the account room. Last month they had been deducted and promised compensation this month, yet now they were short another 300 when. What was going on? Even the account book could not be calculated correctly. Exactly. Why was the money in Madame Chu's room not short a single coin? Only we were being cut. Wang Mama tried her best to explain. It must be a miscalculation on the account side. Wait until Madame Chu is clearer-headed. She will surely investigate and make it up. A round-faced auntie snorted coldly. Madame Chu crying is not something that happens in 1 or 2 days. Mama, that sentence of yours. I don't know how many times it has already been said. When I stepped inside holding the token, I immediately saw a scene of complete chaos. Wang Mama saw me as if she had found a savior. Lion, you have arrived. These lower servants are causing an uproar. You have a sharp mind. Step forward and settle it for us. I swept my eyes around. They were all maids and aunties of the inner courtyard, laundry workers, needlework women, miscellaneous servants. There was absolutely no male page or outer steward among them. In my heart I laughed coldly. Those male stewards were indeed cowardly to the bone. They dared not touch the salaries of the men ahead of them and only secretly played tricks within the group of female servants. Wang Mama, rest a moment and let me take a look. Wang Mama withdrew. I looked at the angry crowd around me and raised my voice slightly. What are you all making such noise about? Do you still regard the rules of the mansion at all? The round-faced auntie, relying on her seniority, was the first to speak. Lin Guniang has come at just the right time. Please judge fairly for us. This wage distribution is so muddled. Our share is missing. We should at least receive one fair word. I did not answer, only flipped a few more pages of the account book. Seeing me silent, she began to look aggrieved. Guniang, it is not that we do not know the rules and deliberately cause trouble. It is only that the wages are far too short. Take me, for example. Last month I accidentally ruined an old dress and it was deducted. I do not resent that, but that dress was worth at most 100 wen, yet the book recorded 300. How are we supposed to live? As soon as she finished, several people beside her also whispered in agreement. I raised my hand to signal them to stop. I have clearly heard of your difficulties. Wages concern livelihood and are no small matter. Wherever the account book is wrong here, I will investigate each item one by one until it is clear. The round-faced auntie muttered again, but we all knew whom to ask. The account side claimed it followed the steward's order, while Madame Chu paid no attention at all. Then find the steward. I closed the book and looked toward them. Do any of you still keep the fabric receipt or any proof of the work assignment from before? They glanced at one another. The round-faced auntie reacted fastest and immediately spoke up. I have it. Before Li Mama asked me to sign for the old dress, I required her to clearly record the condition of the clothing and the estimated value on paper. Although afterward she refused to acknowledge it, I still kept that paper. Very good, I nodded. Anyone who has evidence, later bring it separately for me to examine. Those without evidence must clearly state the reason and who directly assigned the work. I turned to the account manager where Steward Chen was still standing watching with a wooden face. Steward Chen, I trouble you to copy a separate detailed list for me of all fines and reductions in the inner courtyard over the past 3 months. For each item, what was the reason? How much was deducted? Who decided it? Everything must be recorded clearly. Steward Chen flicked his abacus beads and said lazily, Lion Guniang, it is not that I refuse to do it, but the accounts are in a mess. Checking each item takes time and effort. Moreover, these fines were all reported by the stewards of each room. They are definitely not wrong. If Gunyang has doubts, why not go ask those stewards directly? The words sounded mild but were clearly pushing responsibility away. I looked at his face. The look of someone who was only following the rules. Slowly drew the token from my sleeve. The token in my palm, the 4 shining characters, inner mansion expenses, struck the eye. Steward Chen, the token is now in my hand. Today the wage distribution is unclear and the servants have gathered at the account room causing an uproar. If I do not investigate thoroughly, and if it reaches Lord Chu's ears, I fear even you will find it hard to escape blame. Seeing my resolute attitude, Steward Chen pursed his lips and finally said nothing more. Since Gunyang has spoken this way, I will do it. But it will take some time. I put the token back into my sleeve. No hurry. In 3 days I will come to collect it. I will trouble you then. Then I turned to the noisy crowd. Today you gathered here making noise. In the end it is still against the rules. What belongs to you will not be shortened. What does not belong to you, no matter how much you stir up trouble, is useless. The mansion has the mansion's regulations. Now disperse. In 3 days at the same hour, whether compensation or investigation is needed, everything will be settled at once. Everyone hesitated for a moment, then gradually dispersed. Only then did Wang Mama step out from the corridor, letting out a long sigh of relief. Lion, it is still you who has the method. These past few days Madame Xu has ignored food and drink. I am truly at my wit's end. Her voice was weary, clearly exhausted. I supported her arm, my own voice unable to hide its heaviness. Mama has worked hard too. Madame Xu does not manage. If we also let things slide, this inner courtyard will truly fall into chaos. Wang Mama smiled bitterly and said nothing more. Back at the main courtyard, Madame Xu was still languidly leaning by the window, staring blankly at the withered flowers outside. I briefly recounted what had happened at the account room. She did not even turn her head, only waved her hand indifferently. Handle it as you see fit. Since his heart is no longer with me. What use is there in managing those things? That night she probably thought of some heartbreaking matter again. She sobbed loudly for a while, then went to bed early. I gave the night, duty little maids a few trivial instructions, and then withdrew to rest. I put on a cloak and stepped into the thick darkness without carrying a lantern, relying only on the familiar moonlight to follow the corridor and cross the courtyard. Sure enough, the lamp in the front courtyard study was still lit. I approached and gently knocked on the door. Come in. The voice inside carried wariness. Seeing me enter, he showed slight surprise. So late. What is the matter? I removed my cloak and bowed in salute, disturbing Lord Chu's rest time. This slave has come especially to report about the account book and monthly wage matter in the inner courtyard today. He signaled for me to continue. I recounted the entire story from beginning to end, my voice carrying an unmistakable tone of nostalgia. This slave thought back to when old Madame Chu still held the affairs of the mansion. Punishments were clear and distinct, treating servants both strictly and generously. Everyone was moved by her grace and virtue. If today, because of a few small coins, people's hearts grow cold and the reputation accumulated by the mansion over many years is damaged, it would truly be more loss than gain. I did not utter a single word of blame toward Madame Chu. Even her neglectful attitude I only lightly passed over, yet the words formed an unmistakable contrast. He listened in silence for a long time, then suddenly gave a soft laugh. She is not even as thoughtful for the greater good as a mere maid like you. I lowered my head, my voice carrying fear. Lord Chu overpraises. This slave only fulfills her duty with all her heart, sharing worries with her master. Madame Chu has a kind nature and puts Lord Chu first in everything, so sometimes she finds it difficult to attend to small details. Those half-true, half-false excuses made his face even colder. If she truly thought for me, she should manage the inner courtyard properly so I would not be burdened by behind. The scenes matters. But what about her? It is as if she refuses to grow up, clinging all day to old words that have long passed. He opened his eyes filled with disappointment. For the ancestral legacy and continuing the family line, she cannot even give birth to a single child, yet she refuses to let me take concubines. Tell me, is there any principal wife in this world like this? Seeing nothing but wariness and boredom in his eyes, my heart hardened a few more degrees. All affection is an illusion. If a man can view a woman as a tool for continuing the bloodline and overseeing the inner courtyard, why cannot a woman view a man as a ladder to climb higher? After all, it is only mutual exploitation. Whoever gains something takes it. I lowered my voice even further. Lord, do not say that. Perhaps because Madame Chu cares too deeply about you. The days are still long, she will gradually come to understand. He shook his head lightly, seeming unwilling to speak of Madame Chu any longer, and changed the subject. I remember your parents were once trusted stewards in the mansion. I answered, yes. My father was the account steward beside old Madame Chu. My mother was the mama who taught the maids in the inner courtyard. He nodded as if just recalling. Yes, they were trusted people cultivated by my mother, always reliable in their work. He pondered for a moment, then said, The inner courtyard is chaotic like this now. Without a capable manager it will not do. Then call them back. Let them return to their old positions. I suppressed the surge of emotion in my heart and bowed deeply. This slave thanks Lord Chu on behalf of my parents for this great grace. Stand up. He looked at me, his voice softening. I know you have always been appropriate. He paused, his gaze unintentionally sweeping over the place on my collar where the purple lotus faintly showed. That year it was fortunate to have you. My face reddened. My voice, usually steady, now carried a trace of maidenly shyness. Lord Chu overpraises. That year this slave was willing with all her heart. Finished speaking, I hurriedly saluted and withdrew from the study in a fluster. For the next 2 days Lord Chu still did not set foot in the rear courtyard. The atmosphere in the mansion was taut as a drawn bowstring. The servants walked without daring to breathe loudly. That morning Madame Chu woke unusually early. Rarely did she not lie sprawled on the bed shedding tears as usual. Instead she sat before the mirror applying makeup. The gray sky outside the window cast its light on her pale face, yet a strange gleam shone in the depths of her eyes. Lion, come comb my hair, style it the most gorgeous way. Bring out the set of jewelry inlaid with ruby and bordered in gold for me to wear. My heart skipped a beat, but I still obeyed and fetched the jade hairpin. While combing her hair I carefully observed her expression, my voice carrying hesitation. Madam, today is exactly the 3rd day. The aunties and maids who were short on wages are probably already waiting outside. If there is no explanation today, I fear they will cause trouble again and disturb your peace. Hearing matters unrelated to favor, her brows immediately furrowed in displeasure. Those trivial little things, are they worth bothering me about? Handle them yourself. In my heart I secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Yes, this slave understands. Just then Wang Mama entered carrying a basin of hot water. Seeing Madame Chu's attire, her eyes brightened. Today Madame Chu's complexion looks much better. Yes, you should dress beautifully. When Lord Chu sees it he will surely be very happy. Madame Chu looked in the mirror and curved her lips into a smile. Yes, I have thought it through. These past few days I have troubled all of you. Wang Mama grew even happier and was about to add a few comforting words when Madame Chu's voice suddenly turned icy cold, carrying killing intent. Why would I be foolish enough to quarrel with Lord Chu and ruin the harmony between husband and wife? It is all because of that vixen. The smile on Wang Mama's face instantly froze. She had clearly guessed Madame Chu's intention. Madam, you cannot possibly mean to. The corners of Madame Chu's lips curled up. Exactly. I want to see with my own eyes what kind of fairy she is that can steal my husband's soul like this. Wang Mama panicked and nearly dropped the basin. You must not. Madam, how can you go there yourself? If it causes a commotion, not only will everyone know, it will also further damage the affection between you and Lord Chu. Madame Chu laughed coldly and stood up, knocking over the powder box beside her. He has already kept an outer chamber. What affection is there left to speak of? Wang Mama, terrified, urged, Madam, please reconsider. Madame Chu grew more agitated the more she spoke. The last traces of reason burned away by the flames of jealousy. Seeing Wang Mama still motionless, she angrily smashed a teacup. Why are you still standing there? If you say one more word, I will drive you out as well. Wang Mama was frightened into silence, tears welling in her old eyes. I helped her out to the outer hall. Madam is causing such chaos like this. The mansion will truly fall apart. I supported her arm, sharing the same helpless heartache. Mama, do not worry. Madame Chu is only momentarily blinded by anger, as servants. Besides urging her with all our strength and bearing more of the burden, what else can we do? My words seemed to open the floodgates of resentment Wang Mama had suppressed for so long. This household truly cannot be sustained any longer. Ever since old Madame Chu passed, there has been no order or discipline left in the mansion. Madame Chu only knows how to cry and lament over love all day, her tears more plentiful than well water, yet she pays no attention to any proper affairs. The servants watch faces and act accordingly. Some steal, others do sloppy work. Every time Lord Chu returns he finds no joy. This house is living with no way forward. I gently patted the back of her hand. U does not think the same. But the more chaotic it becomes, the more we must protect Madame Chu. If even we are not careful, when real trouble comes, who will be the first to suffer if not us servants? Wang Mama wiped her face in panic. You are right. If something truly happens, none of us will escape. All right then, I will go to the front courtyard and call a few honest people to follow, so nothing major occurs. I personally escorted her to the front courtyard corridor. Only when her figure disappeared around the bend did I lightly brush the dust from my sleeve. Madame Chu had decided to charge headlong into the wall. No one could stop her. But I could not charge her, because today at the account room there was still a hard battle to fight, and that was the ladder on which I must plant my feet firmly step by step. Outside the account room, even more people than 3 days earlier were waiting, necks craned, eyes filled with both expectation and calculation. Steward Chen saw me and forced a strained smile onto his face. Line Guniang, the detailed list you requested has been copied. I did not sit down but stood right on the steps, turning page after page, item after item. Laundry Aunt Zhang ruined 2 old garments. Originally deducted 300 wen, now revalued at 100 wen. Beside it a small notes according to Article 300 of the Inner Mansion Regulations on Wear and Tear of Items, confirmed by La Mama of the laundry room. Needlework, Little Sing submitted 2 short pouches of brocade. Originally deducted 100 wen. After checking the receipt and delivery slip, the quantities matched. Recorded error, full amount to be returned. The note stated it was a clerical mistake by the servant, verified by Steward Liu of the needlework room. Every item, every line, which needed compensation, which needed correction, was clearly stated. Even the regulation cited and the person who confirmed it were carefully noted. I closed the book and looked at Steward Chen. He avoided my eyes and coughed lightly. As Gunyang instructed, I asked every steward again. Signatures and handwriting are attached at the back. I nodded lightly and swept my eyes over the people standing below the steps, each with a different expression. The items have been investigated. Some deductions were wrong. Some fines were appropriate but too heavy, and a few were simple clerical errors. Madame Chu has temporarily entrusted the inner courtyard affairs to me precisely for the 2 words fairness. Since fairness is desired, mistakes must be punished and shortages must be compensated. I held up the book. Now whoever is called, step forward to receive what is due. Laundry. Aunt Zhang was deducted 300 wen, revalued at 100, compensation of 200 wen. Aunt Zhang's eyes reddened. This old woman understands. If not for Gunyang's persistence, I would never have recovered that money even if I wore my feet out. This old woman thanks Lan Gunyang many times over. I smiled in reply and continued. Needlework. Little Sing was deducted 100 wen, confirmed as error, full 100 wen returned. Little Sing wiped her tears with her sleeve and went inside to collect the money. One by one I read and settled on the spot every amount that needed compensation or return. When it was finished, I closed the book and looked at the steward standing to one side with lowered heads. Li Mama, Steward Liu, Zhao Mama, and Steward Chen. The 4 named people all trembled slightly at the shoulders. Today, where you went wrong and why you must repay. I believe each of you knows as clearly as a mirror. There are words I originally did not intend to say openly. But since the matter has been exposed, if I do not make it clear, people's hearts will not be at ease and the inner courtyard will never be stable again. All 4 lowered their heads even further. I continued. Anyone involved in this discrepancy will have 2/10 of this month's salary deducted. The 2/10 salary of those stewards will not go into the public funds, but will be used to buy fruit and pastries to share with the hardworking sisters below, as a way to soothe their hearts. As soon as the words left my mouth, the maids and aunties broke into radiant smiles. Deducting stewards' money to buy snacks for lower servants. This was the first time it had happened in the mansion. The stewards also breathed sighs of relief and even felt secretly glad. They knew that once I spoke this way, the matter was over. Li Mama reacted first, bowing slightly. Gunyang is right. I was careless. I accept the punishment. Steward Liu and Zhao Mama exchanged glances and also nodded in acceptance. Steward Chen stood with hands clasped and said nothing, taking it as agreement. In that case, today's matter ends here. I looked at them, my voice softening, carrying sincerity. We are all people of the mansion. Above we receive the master's grace. Below we must guide the servants to complete their tasks properly. There is no need to make things difficult for one another. That is all for today. In the future, if there is any difficulty and I am not present, you may come find me. What I can do, I will do. What I cannot do, I will still give you a clear answer. Dismissed. Return to your duties. The crowd left one after another, their faces visibly more relaxed than when they had arrived. I followed the corridor, slowly returning. This battle not only returned fairness to those below, but also warned those who played tricks to know their place. I know that everything went so smoothly this time because Lord Chu must have given secret instructions behind the scenes. The way I handled the matter this time will definitely reach his ears. Benevolence and authority both applied, considering the overall situation. Just in terms of managing the household, I do not know how many times better I am than Madame Chu. Dusk had arrived. I lightly tightened my robe and broke into a silent smile. Madam, from your side. Please do not disappoint me 10,000 times. Just as I stepped into the main courtyard, I encountered 2 aunties supporting Madame Chu staggering back. Her hair was disheveled, one cheek swollen red, the cloak was gone, clothes covered in dirt and dust, looking as if she had just been in a brawl. She was crying until her voice was hoarse. her mouth still non-stop cursing the ungrateful betrayer, the liar repeating over and over those messy looping sentences. The belly was already so big yet still dared to say only love me all lies. Not long after, Lord Chu returned, his face black as the bottom of a pot, not even glancing at the people in the corridor. He stormed straight into the main room. The door slammed shut, and his voice finally could not be held back any longer. Vile woman, do you have to destroy this house completely to be satisfied? Do you know how many eyes were watching today? The face of the Chu family has been thrown away clean by you. Madame Chu wailed shrilly. I lose face, but you and that vixen even made a bastard child. Chilang, were all the words you said in the past nothing but lies? Slap, another slap landed. You dare call the flesh and blood of the Chu family a bastard? All these years you could not give birth to a single child. Have I ever blamed you once? Yet now you dare lead people to the door to beat someone. Are you crazy or possessed? Yes, I am crazy, I am possessed. Her voice was hoarse, mixed with frenzied joy. You love her so much. Love her so much that you abandon official duties just to run and protect that cheap woman. Hearing the words, abandon official duties, I unconsciously turned to look at Wang Mama still standing silently beside me. Wang Mama met my gaze and immediately looked guilty. I was at my wit's end too. You did not see Madame Chu at that moment. She truly looked possessed, insisting on beating that woman to death and even wanting to drag her out to drown her in the lake. With such a big belly, what if it really was the Chu family's flesh and blood? The more she spoke, the more panicked she became. My little grandson is only 4 years old. If I had not stopped her at that time and a murder really happened, would Lord Chu spare any of us? Madame Chu is the master, at worst she would get scolded. We are servants, how could we keep our lives? I took a handkerchief to help her wipe her tears and lowered my voice to comfort her. Mama, do not be afraid. I understand everything clearly. You only did it for Madame Chu's sake, fearing she would commit a great crime. What you did today was very right. I will not speak of it. Wang Mama looked up, tears brimming as she poured out her heart. Good child, you do not know. Today I was so scared my soul nearly flew away. If that year you had truly been made a concubine, kept Lord Chu's heart, and helped Madame Chu manage the inner courtyard, perhaps things would never have come to this. I only gave a bitter smile and did not continue. Not long after, Lord Chu pushed the door open and stepped out, his face gloomy and heavy. Watch Madame Chu closely, without my order. Do not let her step half a foot outside the room. Whoever dares to release her will be driven straight out of the mansion. This is a confinement order. For the next few days, at first Madame Chu still cried and caused chaos. Later, she became completely quiet. Food and drink brought in were mostly carried out untouched. Until one noon when I carried in several light dishes. I saw Madame Chu dressed neatly, sitting properly before the desk. In front of her lay a sheet of paper, the ink still not completely dry. Seeing me enter, she did not raise her head, only read softly. This love should have been bound for a lifetime. If you have already cut off affection, then I will let go. Finished reading, she pushed the paper toward me. Lion, take this and deliver it to Lord Chu. I stepped forward 2 paces and saw clearly the words on the paper divorce letter. I set the tray down and gently advised, Madam, why must it be like this? Lord Chu's words were only spoken in anger. Husband and wife do not hold grudges overnight. Before the words were finished, a slap landed on my face. Cheap servant, you also want to make me uncomfortable, is that it? Without love, what meaning is there in keeping this empty shell of a marriage? It would be better to die and be done with it. None of you understand the feeling of losing the person you love most. Get out. Take this thing and get out. I was slapped so hard my head tilted. My ears rang with buzzing. Even now, in her eyes there was only that illusory affection. I slowly knelt down. This slave spoke wrongly. Please forgive me, madam. Get out. She snatched the teacup beside her and hurled it hard to the ground. It shattered right at my feet. I said nothing more, picked up the divorce letter, and quietly withdrew. In the study, I presented the letter with both hands, head bowed and eyes lowered. Lord Madame Chu ordered this slave to bring this. He did not accept it. His gaze stopped on the red mark still imprinted on my cheek. She hit you. I tilted my head slightly, my voice low. Madame Chu was only feeling stifled. This slave is fine. He looked at me for a while, then suddenly stepped forward and gently lifted my chin. You are very good, Lion. That year my mother did not misjudge the person. I avoided his gaze, not daring to meet it. That appearance in his eyes looked even more like someone enduring humiliation while forcing herself to bear it. He gave a soft laugh. His other hand touched my cheek, the thumb brushing over the red mark then sliding down, stopping at the row of buttons on my collar. One button, then another. The front of my robe gradually opened. The carefully painted purple lotus finally appeared completely before his eyes. His expression was mesmerized. His fingertips gently touched the lotus deeply engraved in memory. Truly beautiful. he whispered hoarsely. Immediately after, his burning lips pressed down. I let out a soft sound and instinctively clutched the front of his robe. His arms circled my waist, pulling me tight against his chest. The man's breath and the cold scent of power on his body completely enveloped me. My mind was in turmoil. His hand slipped deeper into the open robe, roaming restlessly. The intertwined hot breath was suffocating. My voice broke, unclear whether resisting or yielding. "Do not be afraid," he breathed heavily. "No matter how big the matter, I am here." The cold air seeped in, wrapping around his body heat. Right at that moment, urgent knocking sounded outside the study. The steward's panicked voice. "Lord, it is bad. Madame Chu has attempted suicide." He released me, cursed, troublesome, in a low voice, then turned and left. I leaned against the wall, took a deep breath, and slowly buttoned my robe one by one. I straightened my clothes, smoothed my hair, and the ripples on my face also settled. The main courtyard had already fallen into chaos. Madame Chu had looped a white silk sash around her neck. The stool under her feet shook violently. She cried and screamed, snot and tears streaming. "Let me die. Chu Lang no longer needs me. What meaning is there in living?" He stood below, face black as iron. Teeth clenched. It had to be. If she really hanged herself here and word spread, the Chu family's reputation for forcing the principal wife to death would be gone forever. "Madam, whatever the matter, come down and talk." His voice suppressed his anger. Her foot slipped, the stool tilted even more. "Then you must promise me you will not bring that vixen into the house." He closed his eyes, voice hissing through gritted teeth. "Fine, I promise. Come down now." Only then did she sob and step down. The moment her feet touched the ground, she went limp. He reached out to support her. She immediately wrapped around him like an octopus, hugging his neck and crying loudly. "Chu Lang, I knew it. In your heart you still have me." His hand hovered in the air for a long time before lightly patting her back. In his eyes there was not half a trace of tenderness, only disgust and an indescribable weariness. But Madame Chu was delirious. She raised her face, wanting to kiss him. He turned his head to avoid it, hesitated a moment, then still let those lips mixed with tears and snot press against him. Immediately after, he carried Madame Chu horizontally, turned and walked straight inside. "Everyone get out." The maids and aunties were overjoyed they did not have to stay. They hurriedly withdrew and quickly closed the door. Inside the inner chamber, Madame Chu cried, then moaned, each sound pounding straight into my ears. After the hanging incident, Madame Chu seemed to become another person. She no longer cried loudly, no longer smashed things, and did not even mention the separate villa again. Every time he came to visit, she spoke softly and gently, personally offering tea and arranging dishes. She became quiet to an abnormal degree, so that the entire main courtyard gave off a strange, eerie feeling. Even Wang Mama secretly whispered, "Could it be that this time Madame Chu has truly thought things through?" But a person's nature cannot change in one night, especially someone who regards affection as life itself. The quieter and more obedient she became, the more dangerous the undercurrents beneath. Sure enough, the day he had just left the mansion not long ago, Madame Yu locked herself inside for quite a while. When she came out, she held a letter already written. She did not call Wang Mama nor me, only sent several other little maids on errands, then handed the letter to a little page she herself considered trustworthy. She thought she had done it secretly, but someone who could not even manage the inner residence properly had no truly trustworthy people. She did not realize that my parents had already been recalled to the mansion and held several key positions in the front courtyard. Even less did she imagine that in the Chu mansion of several decades, the web of connections was intricate and eyes and ears were everywhere. Those matters only needed a little inquiry to become clear. Less than half a day later, my father secretly passed word to me. It turned out Madame Chu's letter had been secretly delivered to the residence of Censor Liu. I pondered for a moment, then gave a soft laugh. That Lord Liu was famous for being rigid and strict, especially fond of submitting memorials impeaching officials for moral failings. This time Madame Chu wanted to pull the firewood from under the cauldron, borrowing the censor's pen to expose Lord Chu's keeping of an outer chamber and tolerating the pregnant outer chamber before the court. In that way, that woman would never have the chance to step into the mansion gate. This move was both vicious and foolish. She never thought, if Lord Chu really lost his position because of it, what benefit would she, the principal wife, gain? At most both would fall into the mud, neither cleaner than the other. That night my mother quietly asked me, should we leak a little wind to Lord Chu about this? It would also count as our loyalty. I shook my head and poured her another cup of tea. Madame Chu has lit the fire herself. Why should we rush to pour water and extinguish it? Let her burn. The bigger the fire, the better. Madame Chu grew calmer, yet the smile on her lips grew increasingly vicious. She was waiting for the moment thunder and lightning would strike Lord Chu's head. About half a month later, Lord Chu returned from the Yemen, his face never so ugly. In the study, the sound of porcelain shattering rang out. Even the dullest servants realized something was wrong. The news only leaked out bit by bit the next day. Lord Chu had been summoned by his superior and scolded thoroughly. His moral character was improper and had been seized upon. The impeachment memorial from the censor had been temporarily suppressed, but the impact was already too severe. Lord Chu was suspended for 1 month. Ordered to return home and reflect behind closed doors, salary halved for half a year pending further observation. For an official who valued reputation and harbored ambitions for advancement like him, this was no different from a high humiliation. His future official path would probably be difficult. Lord Chu shut himself in the study for 3 days, not touching food or drink. At first, when she heard he had been punished and salary deducted, a trace of schadenfreude flashed across Madame Chu's face. But when she heard he had been suspended, she truly panicked. She paced restlessly, then forced herself to calm down, muttering to comfort herself. No, everything I did was secret. I did not leave a name. Yes, it must be Lord Chu worrying over that vixen. She even gave birth to a ray of hope. Perhaps after this incident Lord Chu would know fear, would cut off all outside delusions, and return to live peacefully with her. Therefore she once again put on the appearance of a proper wife, ordered the little maids to stew the soup he liked, and personally carried it to the study door. But no matter how softly she pleaded outside the door, even shedding tears, inside remained completely silent. When he finally finished sulking in the study and began summoning the steward in and out, I stood observing. Lord Chu had definitely begun to suspect. In less than 2 days, a full report was placed on his desk. All the bright, unhidden clues pointed straight to the main courtyard. Lord Chu's gaze gradually darkened. He picked up the brush and slowly wrote one character on the white paper beside him: divorce. He sent people to invite the clan elders and Madame Chu's elder brother, washed and changed clothes, and personally stepped into the ancestral hall. What happened inside the ancestral hall no outsider knew. They only knew that when he stepped out he threw the divorce letter hard into Madame Chu's face. Sushi. From the day you stepped into the Chu family gate, all these years I still have no child. Narrow-minded, unable to tolerate others, jealous and envious. Secretly colluding with outside officials to spread rumors and gossip. Damaging my reputation and bringing shame to the family clan. This is lacking virtue. Among the 7 reasons for expulsion you have violated 3. Today, following ancestral law, I divorce you. From now on, grace severed, righteousness cut. No further connection. Madame Chu's originally dazed and scattered gaze finally focused. The whole person seemed to go mad. You dare divorce me. How can you? Your official position. Your children. None of them compare to the affection between husband and wife. You are filthy. You have soiled our love. You are a hypocritical, false person, despicable. She screamed and lunged to scratch and claw at Lord Chu, but was held tightly by her elder brother. He only stood there, coldly watching her madness, as if looking at someone completely deranged. Madame Chu's elder brother's face was pitch black. He pinned his younger sister down, voice full of disgust. All the years the family taught you etiquette and rules, what you learned was this kind of lovesick, half-dead nonsense. Being the wife in someone's house yet not managing the family property, only knowing love, love, love all day, raising you is truly a waste. He half-dragged, half-pulled her like restraining a wild, ill-mannered dog, roughly dragging her out of the front courtyard amid her crying and struggling. Madame Chu had been driven away. The mansion finally enjoyed a few days of peace. But the news that the Chu family's principal wife, Shushi, had been divorced, that Lord Chu kept an outer chamber and even had a child with her, spread like wings throughout every alley and street. It truly lost face all the way outside the mansion gate. Both reputation and dignity were torn to shreds. Lord Chu shut himself in his room. It was obvious he had collapsed. That day I carried in a bowl of thin porridge. He was sitting at the desk reading an official gazette. I set the tray down and said softly, "Lord, the porridge should be eaten while hot." Only then did he raise his head. "Outside, what are people saying about me now?" I answered, "Just some street gossip. After some time it will naturally quiet down." He smiled bitterly. "The people left in the capital are best at watching which way the wind blows. It seems my official path has come to an end here, and that child was born at the wrong time with so many things happening." I followed his words and advised, "Now the most important thing is to stabilize the situation. The wind outside will pass, but the matter of descendants is a great affair and cannot be delayed. The separate villa ultimately needs a trustworthy person to oversee it. We cannot allow any more accidents." Now that there was no longer Madame Chu watching, I could finally display my full value. He sighed. "That is right. That side needs someone meticulous." He gazed at me for a long time, then suddenly smiled. "You were once the most capable person beside my mother. Are you willing to go to the separate villa on my behalf and take care of the unborn child? I immediately knelt down, my voice full of reverence. This slave is willing to share Lord Chu's worries. He personally helped me up, his tone much more intimate. You are someone who understands. Right now the mansion is in turmoil. It is not convenient for me to come and go often. Once this period passes, I will definitely not let you suffer any loss. Having received Lord Chu's personal promise, that very day I packed my belongings and went to the separate villa. The place was very quiet, with only one auntie and one little page inside the gate. The woman sat on the bed, her belly already large, draped in gaudy silk. Between her brows, lips, and eyes was full of seductive charm. She did not even glance at me, only facing the small mirror painting her eyebrows. I stepped forward and saluted. This slave Leon pays respects to the lady. She glanced at me through the mirror, then lazily turned and stood up, supporting her back. I am carrying the Chu family's bloodline. What did you call me? I bowed my head. This slave misspoke. Greetings, Lady Meng Qing. She laughed, walked up to me, and lightly lifted my chin. Your face is passable, but it is a pity you carry the lowly fate of a maid. Seeing I did not answer, she became even more pleased. Keep your place and serve well. Do not give birth to any improper thoughts. I cannot tolerate even a grain of sand in my eyes. I bowed even deeper. This slave will remember lady's teaching and absolutely dare not disobey. Day after day, Lady Meng Qing's belly grew larger and her temper became more difficult and erratic. Anything that displeased her. Even lightly she would curse, heavily she would shout. I always endured without a word of complaint. From food and drink to medicine and movement, everything I personally checked meticulously. Because of the unborn child, there absolutely could not be any mistake. After all, that was not only my responsibility but also my future. That day at noon, Lady Meng Qing grew angry again because the tea was too hot and ordered me to fetch cold water from the well to remake it. I had just carried the copper basin out to the corridor when a loud crash came from the front courtyard. At the same time came the little page's scream, making my heart tighten. I hurried to the middle of the courtyard and saw the wooden door had been hacked open by someone with one heavy chop, leaving a large hole. Amid the flying wood splinters, Lady Chu, the one who had been divorced, hair disheveled, holding an axe in her hand, stared with fierce eyes straight at Lady Meng Qing, who had just poked her head out of the room door. Vile woman, I will kill you. It was you who destroyed my husband, wife affection, destroyed this family. Lady Chu screamed, raising the axe and charging straight at Lady Meng Qing. The little page was so scared his legs went soft. He crawled and scrambled out, shouting nonstop, "Murder. Someone is committing murder." Lady Meng Qing's face turned deathly pale. She screamed, hugged her belly, and shrank back inside. I had no time to think. Together with Aunt Zhang, each of us took one side and grabbed her, dragging her straight toward the rear courtyard. Lady Chu was like a tiger gone mad, swinging the axe and chasing right at our heels. The axe blade repeatedly grazed our sleeves and chopped into the corridor pillars, sending wood chips flying everywhere. In the courtyard, chickens flew and dogs jumped in utter chaos. Lady Chu chased us around the bare old locust tree in the middle of the yard. The loud noise alarmed the entire neighborhood. Outside the wall, a crowd gathered to watch. Some sharp-eyed person recognized her. Heavens! Isn't that the eldest daughter, in-law of the Chu family, who was just divorced? The one holding the axe? Oh my God, unimaginable. Who is the one running with the huge belly? The one kept outside. Truly retribution. No one stopped it. No one reported it to the authorities. They only stretched their necks to watch to their heart's content. Seeing she was about to catch up, I gritted my teeth, suddenly pushed Lady Meng Qing into Aunt Zhang's arms, then turned and, the moment Lady Chu raised the axe again, used all my strength to ram into her body. With a thud, the axe fell to the ground. Lady Chu was knocked over by me. Aunt Zhang reacted quickly and rushed forward to pin her waist tightly. Lady Chu was exhausted but still struggled like a madwoman. In the end, we pinned her firmly to the ground. Her mouth still nonstop cursing, arms and legs flailing wildly as if wanting to tear the sky apart. Lady Meng Qing had not yet recovered from shock. She hid a safe distance away. Seeing Lady Chu pinned down, the fear on her face instantly turned to triumph. She clutched her chest, slowly walked over, and looked down at Lady Chu from above. You are a lowly woman no one wants. No wonder Lord Chu divorced you. Look at your ghostly, demon-hated appearance. What do you have to compare with me? She spoke more and more excitedly, pointing at her own large belly. Open your eyes wide and look. Once the precious darling in my belly is born, Lord Chu will definitely welcome me into the house with a full ceremony. At that time I will be the rightful principal wife of the Chu family, while you, a hen that cannot lay eggs, can make yourself scarce and get out of my way. Finished speaking, she lifted her chin full of triumph and turned to go inside the room. Lady Chu lay on the ground listening to every insulting word. The last thread of reason, already as thin as a hair, finally snapped completely. In utter despair, she summoned her final strength, broke free from me and Aunt Zhang, and charged straight at Lady Mengqing. "Vile woman, I will kill you." Everything happened too fast. Lady Mengqing had her back turned and was completely unguarded. I froze for a split second, had no time to think, and threw myself forward as a flesh cushion. Just in time to catch Lady Mengqing falling onto me, Lady Chu had already charged over. Eyes red as blood, she pressed Lady Mengqing down and rained down frenzied punches, nails, and teeth without warning. My ear, my face. "Save me." Lady Mengqing wailed miserably, trying to cover her head and face. Right when flesh and blood were flying, the constables finally arrived following the little page who had run away. The moment they entered the courtyard, they were stunned by the scene and immediately rushed forward to subdue the frenzied Lady Chu. At this moment, Lady Mengqing, who had been pressing on top of me, had already broken her waters, soaking the ground. One hand clutched the ear that Lady Chu had bitten to shreds, the other supported her belly. Blood and amniotic fluid mixed together. The matter was serious. The constables did not dare act on their own and only immediately took Lady Chu away first. Aunt Zhang and I hurriedly helped Lady Mengqing into the inner room. That day, the whole of Chang'an exploded. The Chu family story spread through every alley. The principal wife carrying an axe, chasing and trying to kill the outer chamber bitten until her face was torn and waters broken, giving birth prematurely on the spot. Each story was enough for storytellers to sit and talk for 3 days and nights without stopping. That noon, I had just watched the wet nurse soothe the little young master to sleep when Lord Chu arrived. He looked at the sleeping child, reached out and gently stroked his cheek, expression complicated. I stood outside and bowed. He spoke warily. "When she left, did she leave any words?" I shook my head, my face showing sorrow. Lady Mengqing was frightened too severely. By the time she gave birth, she was already exhausted. She only managed to clutch this slave's hand and say one sentence: "Take good care of the child, love him as if he were your own." All lies. That shallow woman, even on her deathbed, still nagged that she was the principal wife of the Chu family. I gently closed her eyes that had not yet closed, then held the still sleeping child and softly teased him. "Go in peace, Mengqing. Your child I will raise for you. Your position as mistress of the house I will also take for you." Lord Chu remained silent for a long time before speaking. "These past days have been hard on you. I know everything that happened that day. You did very well." I immediately bowed. This slave only did her duty. That day the situation was too urgent. There was no time to think, and Lady Mengqing suffered greatly. Unexpectedly, he stepped forward and took my hand. "No, Liner. I know it was you who endured even more grievance." This was the first time he called me that. I tried to withdraw my hand, but he gripped it tighter. Matters came one after another, but they also let me see clearly who I truly need by my side. He paused, his voice solemn. "I have made up my mind to appoint you as principal wife." My whole body felt as if struck by lightning in broad daylight. I looked at the man before me in a daze. "Lord, how is that possible? This slave's birth is lowly. How dare I harbor such wild ambition?" He looked at me intently. "I value the person you are, not your birth. More importantly, you are the trump card, the only key that can save the Chu family's reputation." My face flushed, unclear whether from shame or joy. "Everything will follow Lord Chu's wish." Lord Chu seemed to have laid down a heavy burden. The hand holding mine also loosened a little. "Good, very good. Rest assured. Whatever face you should have, I will give you in full. I will not let anyone look down on you." The news that Lord Chu was about to marry a maid as his second wife made the already boiling streets even more heated. People discussed previously Lady Chu was at least a proper young miss from an official family. What qualifications did a maid have? But gradually another opinion rose. Some who had personally witnessed the incident at the separate villa that day recounted it with flying spit. "You did not see it with your own eyes." That day Lady Chu had truly gone mad, axe in hand, chopping straight at the huge belly of the Chu family's outer chamber, throwing the whole mansion into chaos. And that girl named Leon dared to risk her life and throw herself out as a flesh shield. If not for her, one axe blow would have taken 2 lives on the spot. Others added before they even finished after that the outer chamber was so terrified her blood flowed across the courtyard. It was also that maid who gritted her teeth and struggled to deliver the baby. Managing to save the Chu family's child, the maids and aunties who had once received my favor also began to speak up. Aunt Zhang, now loyal to me to the bone, told everyone she met. Lin Guniang was personally taught by old Madame Chu herself, extremely capable. Before, when Madame Chu did not manage and the inner courtyard was in disorder, every month when wages were distributed, it was Lin Guniang who held the token and settled everything. Punishing those who deserved punishment, compensating those who deserved compensation. All of us servants admire her to the ground. Little Sing also chimed in. Guniang treats us fairly and gently. Her parents were kind stewards. If anyone has trouble, just ask. If they can help, they will help. The rumors spread quickly, turning into hundreds. My reputation for loyalty to the master and fair handling gradually drowned out all doubts and spread far and wide. Only then did people suddenly realize this maid had long been carefully cultivated by old Madame Chu, originally intended to be sent into Lord Chu's chamber. No wonder she possessed such ability. Now the principal wife had been divorced, the outer chamber had died tragically, and marrying someone like me, who had both merit and deep roots in the mansion, was not absurd at all, but actually a perfect, auspicious match. After the storm, Lord Chu personally submitted a memorial to the court, wording sincerely. He portrayed himself as someone who, for the sake of the family's incense and hairs, had no choice. It was not lust but duty. Among the 3 unfilial acts, having no son to continue the line is the greatest. These words truly soothed no small number of criticisms in the court. As for Lady Chu, she had gone completely mad and was sent straight to an outer farm. No one bothered to mention her anymore. The second year after I was appointed as the new madam, all inside and outside affairs were firmly in my hands. Wang Mama served me and no longer had to bow and flatter. She smiled every day as if she had grown several years younger. My parents now rightfully became Lord Chu's in-laws and naturally could no longer oversee mansion affairs. Lord Chu granted them a separate residence. The 2 of them moved there to enjoy peaceful blessings like any elderly lord and madam of a noble house. The only thing was that all the connections, eyes and ears, and networks they had built over decades had now completely transferred to my hands. The child born prematurely I personally raised by my side, selecting the best wet nurses and aunties to nurture him. His body gradually grew strong. He learned to smile, to babble, and to call me mother. I held him, my heart overflowing with indescribable love. He is my son, the future heir of the Chu mansion. With him in my hands, I am the unshakable mistress of this house. All these years I still have no child. Several concubines were continuously taken in below. All kinds of medicines were not lacking, yet my belly showed no movement. At first Lord Chu still comforted me with a few words. Later he grew more and more indifferent. Once when the grand physician came to take my pulse, Lord Chu happened to be present. He conveniently asked the physician to check his pulse as well. That one time revealed a great matter. The physician's face looked troubled. After hemming and hawing for a long time, he finally spoke vaguely. Lord Chu had used some incompatible medicines when young, damaging the root and depleting the original yang. Wanting more children would be very difficult. Lord Chu flew into a rage upon hearing this and placed all blame on Lady Chu, who had been mad for many years, gnashing his teeth. It must be that venomous woman who secretly put something in my food and drink back then, a vile snake disguised as a woman. I stepped forward, gently pulled his head into my chest, my voice soft as wind. Lord, physicians can sometimes be mistaken, even if it is true. Later we can use precious medicines to nourish, and there will surely be a chance of recovery. Lord Chu leaned against my chest and gradually calmed. I looked at the bright, glaring sunlight outside the window and the corners of my lips curved slightly. Now I am the rightful principal wife, holding the power of the inner courtyard, and the hair is raised by my side. My husband's body is weak. I fear there is little hope for more sons to continue the line. Is there any more perfect situation than this? The sun rises and then sets. That day the grand physician came again to take the pulse. I smiled and instructed. Lord Chu's body, nourishing medicine, must be prepared with the finest ingredients. When that child grows up, he will naturally inherit the family estate and step onto the official path that Lord Chu once paved with his own hands. By then Lord Chu's role will probably have completed its mission and it will be time to retire. In this world there are thousands upon thousands of lords. They are not Chilang nor the ideal husband. In my eyes they are only superiors whose intentions must be guessed, whose favor must be won. As for those fools who regard love as their life and as a sacred decree, they are only fit to be defeated by chess pieces beneath my hand. The wind rises. I lightly tighten my robe, turn and walk toward the account room. This month I still need to reconcile the expense books. Several estates are also waiting for me to settle the autumn harvest accounts. The road is still very long. I cannot step wrong even one step. Thank you for listening to this story. If it touched your heart, please subscribe and leave a comment below. Your support means the world to us.